So who was Britain's first Prime Minister? Most people would answer Robert Walpole, and broadly speaking, they would be correct. But the story is actually more complicated and even more interesting than that. Because Britain did not suddenly invent the office of Prime Minister overnight. The role evolved gradually over time through monarchy, parliament, finance, and political power shifting away from the crown. So in this episode of Politics 5, let's explain who the first Prime Minister was and how that role emerged. The man most historians recognise as Britain's first Prime Minister is Sir Robert Walpole. Walpole served during the early 1700s and became the dominant political figure under King George I and King George II. But here is an important detail. He was never officially called the Prime Minister at the time. In fact, the title itself was initially used as almost an insult by critics who feared too much power was being concentrated into one minister. Officially, Walpole held positions such as First Lord of the Treasury and the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Yet over time, he became the central figure coordinating government, finance, parliament, and royal influence. And this is where the modern office of the Prime Minister truly begins to emerge. Now, to understand why this happened, we need to briefly understand the political changes taking place in Britain at the time. Earlier monarchs had exercised far more direct control over government. But after events such as the English Civil War, the Glorious Revolution, and the Bill of Rights in 1689, power gradually shifted away from absolute royal rule and towards Parliament. At the same time, government itself became more financially and administratively complex. Britain needed taxation, debt management, military funding, trade oversight, and parliamentary coordination. Someone increasingly had to manage the machinery of government on behalf of both the Crown and Parliament. And Walpole became exceptionally skilled at this. He built parliamentary alliances, managed royal relationships, controlled finance, and maintained political stability for over 20 years. That long period of dominance helped establish the model for future prime ministers. Now, importantly, the position of the British Prime Minister evolved through convention rather than a single constitutional document. Britain does not have one written constitution creating the office formally in the same way that other countries do. Instead, the role emerged gradually through practice, precedent, and political necessity. Even today, many aspects of the Prime Minister's role depend heavily on convention rather than one single constitutional text. And that gradual evolution is actually typical of the wider British constitutional system itself. The system developed layer by layer over centuries rather than appearing all at the same time. So, in summary, Robert Walpole is generally recognised as Britain's first Prime Minister, but the office itself evolved gradually over time rather than being suddenly created in one moment. The role emerged as political power slowly shifted from monarchs acting personally towards ministers operating through Parliament. And understanding that evolution helps us to understand something much bigger about Britain itself. That the British political system was not designed in one moment. It was built layer by layer over time. This has been Politics 5. British politics explained in 5 minutes.